We're Gina's reporting. We're back in session. And we had deferred action item. All right, so entertain a motion to approve the amendment to the superintendent's agreement between the superintendent Julie Collier and the Board of Education of Salem Central School. This agreement will be effective August 13, 2025 to June 30th, 2030.
So,
Motion by John,
Second.
second by Jen. So this is something I know people were interested in having a discussion about, but I would just like to just lay down some groundwork for the discussion. In New York State, the board can discuss many high-level topics in public or open session, but specific terms and performance data and negotiation details and around personnel matters are handled in executive session because it is important that we maintain confidentiality. So I wanted to be upfront with what we can talk about in open session and what we talk about in executive session. In open session, we can talk about our district goals, strategic plans and alignment, expected outcomes, overall budgetary impact. We're talking about broad totals, not specifics, public rationale for offering the extension, which, you know, we'll talk a little bit more about that, what we all see in that process, the timeline, the process, the steps, and the general framework for performance metrics without disclosing confidential details. So those are conversations that take place in open session. The conversations that we have in executive session are, we look at the individual performance evaluation and the findings, the negotiations for compensation, terms for the extension, job duties, conditions, all of those are determined in executive session. Any confidential personnel information and discussions that speak to offers, counter offers, exact terms. And this time we have deviated from that because we have made the terms of the extension public. So you can see, and I did change the date because right now that document says August, so with June 30th being the school year is the date that has been determined. You will also see that there's no additional salary asked in those 2 years. So as far as, you know, so you can see that right there, what we're agreeing to. So our discussion here, like it to be focused on, you know, data, and we talk about why we are considering this extension at this time. So, anybody would like to?
want me to go first?
I thought you just said that.
No, I said, does anybody want to go first? Yeah.
No.
Go first.
Do we do the first couple
So,
lists?
No, it's a
let's do
discussion.
we have a.
It's 2:30, John. I made the motion.
Yeah.
Jen seconded it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So we're having a discussion, yeah.
Okay. I have been a board member for 2 years. I grew up in Salem and my daughter goes here. She's going into 4th grade. I have had a wonderful experience at this school, myself and with raising my daughter here. When I met Julie for the first time, it was really as a board member. I didn't have any experience with her as a superintendent yet until I became a board member. And I immediately, I liked her. And then as I spent more time on the board, I noticed that there's some rumblings in the community, and there seemed to be some people that had not so nice things to say. And as I sat more on this board, that has spiraled out of control on social media to the point where sometimes I feel like maybe the superintendent is being bullied and actually defamed. So I understand, I've had people reach out to me to express their concern about different things, and I hear those, but I don't see the same things in my experience here. Julie's evaluations have been favorable. The climate survey has been favorable. There's room for improvement. Julie's been very open about that. She has employed the service of Rick Timms for long-range planning. She's had the foresight to make cuts and make difficult decisions from the beginning of her time as superintendent. So our graduation rate has improved. And I'm just reading my list because I made a lot of notes to myself, so I'm sorry if it's a little bit all over the place. The blueprint for excellence was created. We had the blueprint refresh, and there were times for the community to come speak out and share their visions for our future and for things that they wanted to see happen or concerns that they had. Since my time on the board, constantly people are saying they want more accountability, they want more communication, they want more transparency. And I've seen that happen. Like, that has increased hugely since my daughter started school. The amount of communication that is sent home and that you can get from the school has been growing each year. And I know that Julie's been listening and that she's been trying to do that. I believe that the district needs stability, and I think that having more time to stay here would be, we're extending it by 2 extra years, right? We have her right now until 2028, and then we would extend that by 2 years. I think that we need that stability for the district, right? If we extended that contract, we extend the contract, if we vote to extend the contract, and we'll have her in the district at the end of that for about 12 years. That will be huge for us. We haven't had that type of administrator stay in many, many years. I also think that Julie made good decisions by hiring Will and Katie, and I want to see them stay with the district too. And my fear is that if we continue, if Julie, I don't want to see her leave, but I'm afraid that she will at some point because of such negativity from a cross section of the community. I did look at contracts from around the area, and not just in Washington County, but in our general area. Contracts do range from about 3 to 5 years. And it looks to me as if the contracts that are being made now go anywhere from 4 to 5 years. You'll see 3-year contracts for new superintendents, but if you go to seethrough.net, you can see contracts from all the schools in New York and the superintendent contracts. You can click on the contract and then you can see the terms and the lengths of them as well. I know that this my opinion and my vote may not be popular, and that's okay, because I think that it's right. It's the right thing to do for the district and for our future. So that's my piece.
Me next, okay,
Shorter, please.
short,
Sorry.
I'll try to be short. I want to start adding a little to what we're talking about the end compensation, because I think 2 of the 5-year districts that are around here, that are in Washington County, are Hartford and Whitehall, which are our size districts,
Yes.
more or less, right? I mean, probably hard to find a more comparable size district than we're making. So it's not outside the norm of what's going on in education today, which I understand is different maybe than it was even pre-COVID. But there is some of that. I just want to talk to the community, because I think the whole tenor around this is really unfortunate. And I disagree with some of the math too, and I'm a math guy. So it was thrown out earlier, this is $1 million commitment we're making. I assume the way that number is being arrived at is that it's about $200,000 a year for 5 years. That about $200,000 a year, I agree with. We're already committed to 3 of those years. So the only commitment we'd be making tonight is a 2-year commitment for $200,000. So it's about a $400,000 commitment. And I think if we're going to talk about it, we need to talk about it in ways that are fair and not to inflate numbers of ways that aren't. I also want to talk a little bit about what I'll call threat to vote against the budget if this gets approved. I am not going to pay any attention to anyone who says that, and I'm going to tell you why. Because if the budget gets voted down, the people that get hurt are not the board members who are making this decision. They're not Julie, they're our kids. If this gets voted through and I go for it and you're mad at me, come ask me to resign. I didn't ask for this seat to begin with. I'll step down. I think I'm here because people said they trust my judgment. And that's what I am going to do, is put forth my judgment knowing what I know. But please don't take it out on our kids. That's not where it belongs. If you're mad, be mad at me, yell at me, come pick it up in front of my house, but don't take it out on our kids, okay?
Sure you want
And-
to say that?
My wife is not happy I just said that, but yeah, I do, because I think it's really important. We're upset about the turnover, the administrative turnover, and I think it's Dr. Music's made the point, but that's gonna lead to teacher turnover. But the administrator turnover is going on at the same time, we've got an awful lot of board turnover. So if it's the superintendent's fault that we've had administrators turnover, whose fault is it that we've had the board turnover? And that'd be the community. So I think we all need to look at ourselves and say, why is this? Why is it that two of us were elected on write-in campaigns when no one was running? For a lot of people who have very strong opinions about this, like, why didn't you run for one of those seats? And I get there are some people who couldn't have for various reasons. There's some people who work at the school. That's an obvious reason, but it's not like I have a lot of time to do this either. So, as a matter of fact, I've been going since 7 o'clock this morning. But I think sometimes we need to say things that are hard for people to hear. And we all need to find a way, and within the board and outside the board, to conduct ourselves in a way that is more positive, more respectful of one another, and it puts a little more faith that everybody's coming here in good faith. Because I honestly think everybody is, but sometimes the way we speak doesn't spread the idea that we are. And I think we all need to be conscious of that. That said, my evaluation of this, and I'm sorry, Tom, I know you wanted me to be short, is that at the end of the day, this is a business decision. It's a risk-reward decision. There are obvious financial risks, about $400,000 to extending the contract. There are risks to not extending the contract as well. The risks include a recommencing of the administrative turnover we have been experiencing. And in the end, I will weigh those factors, and that's how it will come to the vote that I come to. That's my piece.
I'll go next. So talking about, this is kind of a bit of a rebuttal, but also come my own. So we talked about the board seat. I know of 3 people who actively thought about running for the board seat, but chose that Marissa, or thought that Marissa was the best candidate. I also know that the old VP was removed by over 400 votes, and that's not a weird band of heathens speaking. That is a community of coming out in epic proportions and speaking, and contrary to the support for the supermajority, right? So that is, out of any sample size you have in front of you, not the Facebook sample size, not the sample size in this room or the more vocal sample size, that is the most conclusive sample size that you have in front of you. The fact that 450 people voted to remove the old board seat, right? That is a very conclusive statement of the community's expectations and interpretations for how this board is performing. So, and now I'm looking further into this, and we've improved a lot recently, right? On the agenda, we didn't push through a vote without reviewing the So there's a vote on the June agenda that was up for a moment, then came down because we wanted to vote on the extension, what, right after Marissa was voted in, right? When the board is changing over, and that was pulled back. And I appreciate that. We have also completed our super evaluation. I appreciate that objectivity. We've also looked at the climate survey. I appreciate that objectivity. That is a sample size, right? That is, a super eval is a nice sample size that's very objective. The climate survey is a nice sample size that's very objective. I appreciate getting those done. However, I am very much focused on us remaining independent. We are voted in by members of the community. We represent members of the community, and it is our job to gain their trust. How do we gain their trust? We gain their trust by communicating effectively. We gain their trust by choreographing our moves. We gain their trust by acting objectively, supplying good information, and allowing them to be a part of the process. If you don't allow them to be a part of the process, they won't trust you. They're not an angry horde because they're crazy. They're an angry horde because they're not a part of the process. Make them a part of the process. That's helpful. That creates bridges and it creates a better dynamic. And so that's what I expect with these changes to the board. In regards to the vote and my position on this, I'm simply going to say, with my CFO hat, I don't like to take on obligations when I know the future is unknown. I like to be slow, careful, objective, and so that's my position, and that's all I have to say. Go ahead.
One of the things that, especially when I may be home trying to figure out paint color, I may make a decision on my opinion. But when I'm sitting in this seat, I don't make any decisions based on opinion. I do try to look at, what is factual, what data I have, and what I can actually, you know, put my teeth into. So I looked at our long-term district objectives, and I took a look at how all of this was being played out. And as Jen said, we've done the superintendent's evaluation since she's been the superintendent. They consistently demonstrated very effective and highly effective results. So she is working towards the goals and objectives that are identified in all of those domains. The district is diligently trying to put curriculum standards in, aligning those standards and doing all the work necessary to show growth for students, and I think we're starting to see that. We witnessed positive progress in student achievement and graduation rates, and as we monitor the test scores and other relevant indicators, we are seeing improvement overall in our school community. Financial planning and oversight strategies are being put in place for us to strengthen our financial stability. And I know we have to be prudent with our budgeting and maintaining our reserves and debt management. And having Dr. Timms help us navigate that, I think, is a very positive thing. And that is as a result of all of Julie's work. She's the one who found him. She's the one that found him to come here, and now he's continuing to work with us. So I think all of those things are positive. I do see that continuity and momentum is essential to completing that work, including the implementation of curriculum standards, sustaining gains in achievement, and finalizing long-range financial planning. And leadership stability fosters focus amongst teachers, staff, and students on instruction and support. And it mitigates a lot of disruption in everybody's daily life. And I also think that the continuity of leadership does preserve institutional knowledge and governance continuity. So I do support the superintendent.
Thanks for being awake. I just wanted to say that I joined this board because, well, for a few reasons, but one of them being that I wanted to know what was happening in executive session. I wanted to know what was happening behind the scenes, things that I was not aware of. As a community member, I wanted to gain more understanding. And I knew that I was putting myself in a rather unfortunate situation because I would have to vote on this extension with very little information. I have to say that anybody who knows me knows that I very rarely ever make a decision lightly. I do ridiculous amounts of research on everything I do. And I'd like to think that that's why some people put me in this seat. And I will say that I was gifted access to past evaluations of Julie, at resoundingly meeting expectations and goals or exceeding them. I've looked at our financial situation. I can't justly put the blame on Julie for that. Do I think everything is perfect? No. But do I think the grass is greener on the other side? No. Do I wish that I could sit here and vote not right now? Sure. But I don't have that luxury. So I think that, I have the vote that I placed tonight. I have done my research. I have listened to the community. I'm not blind to what everyone has said, and I hope that everyone knows that they can continue to say things to me. I obviously am very active in this community, and I try, especially for the children, whether it's baseball or lunchtime play or any other activities I get myself involved in. I'm here for the kids, and I'm here for the betterment of the district in this seat. And I think that there's always room for improvement. I think even our discussion tonight about setting, our board norms or board standards or things like that, that's something that I personally have been pushing for since I won the vote, I knew that was something that I wanted. I'm willing to question things and push boundaries, but I also do have to trust my fellow board members in the research that I have done. And so that's all I have to say.
Thank you, everyone, for sharing. So at this point, it's time to take a vote. All those in favor of the motion to extend the superintendent's conference? I'm sorry, it is late. This is the five I read here. Yeah. Oh, yes.
30th.
We're making a change. I did in the motion.
Yep.
I did change it.
I noted.
when I went-
Small, but important.
Yeah.
It is.
Sorry, so, and you did get that. I got it. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. Opposed? Motion carried forward. Thank you, everybody. We need a motion to adjourn.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn. Second. Ben, all in favor? Carried. 10:58, 10:58.